Hello and welcome to Clea's World. I am Clea, and today I would like to share with you more of the information I've received from the 25th dimension during my last QHHT Hypnosis session. I will be reading from a transcript of the session, and when I refer to Lorrayne, I'm speaking of my practitioner who's asking me questions I prepared for the session. And when I refer to me, I'm speaking of myself under hypnosis, which means the answers are coming from the 25th. Today marks the beginning of a new session. This session was done on April 6th, and I have asked about additional dreams I've had, but also very much inquired into what is going on behind the scenes. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll get started here. All right, so this is being the first part of the session, is when Lorrayne, as usual, does her induction to bring me to a state of complete relaxation. And then she will ask for initial messages. And here's her question. Is there anything that you, the 25th, would like to tell us before we get started with questions? The next bit will seem a bit personal to me, but I am sharing it because, as you know, none of us is unique. So when they refer to me or a situation that's happening with me, doesn't mean that's only happening to me. We are always leveraging each other's work, and we are one at the end of the day. And so even though it might seem like it has details about my personal life, I do share it because many of us have gotten to the same point that they're referring to in regards to my personal development by doing the work we have done. So I hope you find this interesting as much as I did. All right, so here's the first comments from the 25th. We'll just say that Claire received a message from Nick this morning. She calls him Nick from the book because she doesn't like to say his real name. And we've already spoken about the fact that Nick is gone. He's back in the 25th dimension. And Claire is wondering, is this the NPC breaking down? And Nick, just for those of you who haven't read my book, basically is the person that is a man that I met after I left my ex-husband when I was very much in a crisis situation already, and he did not add anything good to it. But of course, I set it all up so that I could awaken and do all of that, because we always choose low vibrational ways of doing things here. And I definitely was all in the game at that point. So they continue. Why is he reaching out to me? Why is he still obsessing over me? Why is he even thinking about me? Or is this my higher self? Of course, it's our higher self. It's just a little distraction. And we also like to, or higher self is giving, is allowing opportunities for this game, this personal shell to continue. Not in a bad way, because Clea no longer puts up as much resistance as she used to. So the things that pop up are not super low vibration like they used to be. They're not in terms of being painful for her or as inconvenient for her as they used to. They're simply little, what you might think of as annoyances. Clea says it's like mosquitoes in the room, and that's all there is. It's nothing. It's just to keep the game a little bit interesting. It can look like things are still happening, but they really aren't. These are not important things. I mean, she's already moved on. This was just almost, again, a little input of reality, or what we like to think of reality here. So it's nothing. And her higher self's not trying to hurt her. It's just trying to say, hey, you can believe it if you want to still believe that these people are out there, even though we told you that they're gone. And of course he is gone, and she's the one that's keeping him in play. And he won't come up again. He won't contact her again. And again, I'm sharing this because if you look at your current life, or I should say lifestyle, basically how we're choosing to live in these during these times, you will notice most likely, and I know I've received many comments from you guys in this in these terms, really, where your outer shell, your personal shell, is looking much lighter than it used to. This is because a lot of the people that were causing trouble have fallen by the wayside because they are all gone. And so the ones we keep bringing in is mostly so that we feel like we're not alone. And so even the small annoyances that continue happening, they're not nearly as dire as they used to be. So please let me know if that's what you're finding. And this is not to say that nothing bad is happening in our lives, or all of a sudden it's like we're already on new earth. I mean it as in general, it feels like the vibration is higher. And because we are not putting up as much resistance as we were before, things are lightening up in our personal lives. And I would love to hear your feedback on this. All right, so first question here. Lorrayne. Okay, our first grouping of questions, as always, is New Earth. You've mentioned that children on New Earth are not going to have as much of a hard time as the rest of us when they find out what has transpired on this planet, because they are not as judgmental as we are. But none of us are going to have a veil. So why will children react differently from us adults? Will they still have the quote unquote limited understanding of things that they have here as children? Does this mean that children will still quote unquote need parents to take care of them on your earth to some extent? Me. So Claire is thinking of this, what she likes to think of as innocence of these children. We already said Claire likes to think that all children are of the light, which of course is not the case. We all align as children when we come in. At the same time, she looks at her daughter and she thinks that her daughter, oftentimes, the reason she doesn't react to certain things or she glosses over things that should be much more readily in Claire's judgment and opinion is because she just doesn't know any better. She doesn't understand the context, the intention behind the action. She doesn't understand what people really mean. And this is where she thinks once she understands the part about the fact that children are not as judgmental in the sense that they have no acquired judgment for things, because we've already spoken about the fact that you get drawn into the matrix more and more as you grow up. Really, our culture, that's what it's based on. Our systems is what they're based on. They're meant to keep you in the game. So the more you get into the system, you're fully in the system and then you're fully in the game. Whereas children are still kind of shielded in some ways, both by their consciousness and at a more 3D level by their parents or the family or whatever it is. So in this case, Claire is thinking, yeah, but there are things that Valentina is not capable of understanding. It's not that she doesn't want to judge it, but she truly doesn't even understand. Children are so ego-centered, like they really have a very small perspective of things. So she's thinking the second that we get to New Earth, because there is no veil, they will have the same understanding that we have. So therefore, they will see the things that they would understand how bad they were. But Claire is overlapping her judgment of things on children. Now, from a quote unquote physical perspective, because again, we are going to be fully conscious of the fact that we are projecting our bodies on New Earth. So we are not going to think of our bodies the way we think here, where it is fully physical. Here we like to think of our bodies as this separate entity almost. And so on New Earth, in a quote unquote physical sense, children will not need parents, will not need, because they don't need to be maintained. They don't need food. They don't need anything. They don't even need a shelter. We will need a shelter. We'll have houses because we're used to the concept and we do want to live as humans. But one needs shelters. There's not going to be weather that we have to protect ourselves from, or safety that we have to acquire through the use of a home or anything of the kind. So in that sense, children will not need their parents. They will be just as capable of surviving and thriving as an adult. There will be no difference in that sense. But Claire is thinking, so from an emotional perspective, from a getting to know the world you live in perspective, which is what we do here, right? We teach our children, we educate our children on how to deal with the world, basically how to behave in the world where children need that, because clearly in Claire's mind, they don't know what's what. They really don't have the experience. And the fact is, no, again, she's using a 3D, an earth mentality, an old earth mentality, we should say, where she's thinking, I gotta teach my daughter how to, how to survive, how to think about things, what is right, what is wrong, et cetera, because she might not know. But no, that won't be the case. Again, everybody's going to be the same, and therefore children will understand just as much. It's just that they will be saddened, even children. They're not going to think, oh, okay, it's nothing. They will know. They will understand fully what's happened here. But it will be easier for them to move on because they are not as committed to their judgment in that sense. And in fact, so there is a question, the follow-up to this question is, how are children going to be different from adults? The experience of children on your earth, if they don't need anything, why are they children then? How would a child on your earth be different from an adult on your earth when they have completely the same understanding? Especially once we move on past the integration of the darkness, we're going to have exactly the same experience. And the children will have absolutely the same experience. They're not going to have a veil, just like the adults. So they're going to have exactly the same experience in that sense, but they will also come in as children, enjoy their life as children, because we will still treat them as children while they are equal to us, just like we will treat animals as animals, even though they are equal to us. They will be fully aware that they're equal to us. They will still be that. So you will see it from a 3D perspective. It's almost like you're saying you will have the same respect for children and animals that you have for adults, okay? For adults that you love and understand, et cetera, et cetera. But it doesn't mean they're just like you. So we'll still have the variations. We'll still have, you can think of it as personalities. They will still have, say, maybe a more playful personality or whatever it is. In that sense, they will be children. They want this experience as children. So they will come in and make themselves look like children. Especially, for example, in the future, when we have more people joining us on New Earth, we will want to have the experience of birthing children on New Earth. Because we already said we'll go through those motions, even though we realize we're just making it up, really. It's just essences coming in. They will still come in as children, looking as children for us and to us, and for themselves, obviously. They want to have that role because it's still wonderful to have somebody that takes care of you, but not takes care of you because they need somebody to take care of them. Takes care of you because, again, we're going through the motions. We want to pretend that we are still human. And so, yes, children will still be different, quote unquote, different from adults in that sense. It will be a slightly different experience, just like animals will have a slightly different experience, but we are all equal. We'll be fully aware that we are all equal. And I mean, you could turn into a cat if you wanted to. Doesn't make you a different person, but maybe you want that different experience. So children will be different in that sense. Lorrayne. Thank you. Will they choose? I mean, I know we can choose to be a cat, or I could choose to come in, to go to New Earth and experience childhood again. Will they progress and age through the process? Or I guess they can choose to remain as children? Me. Sure. No, but most basically, unless we're playing, because we already said we're going to do a lot of experimenting, a lot of playing. We're going to go kind of crazy because we want to try flying. We want to try living underwater. We'll do all kinds of crazy fun things. We've already spoken about this. It's totally fine. But at some point, we're kind of going to be like, okay, I've done all of that. I know I can become whatever I want, and that's fine. I'm just not going to do that every day for my entire existence on New Earth, because after a while, that's going to get boring too. So once you're fully aware of the fact that you can be anything, you're not going to change your shape every 3 minutes, okay? And so in that sense, we'll want to mimic or to pretend that we are humans. So very similar lifestyles to what we do here. What we do, not in terms of, the density and the darkness we've had here, obviously. We talk in terms of having some kind of routines, pretending there's day and night. So we do different things. We talked about doing rituals. So we will have a society, and the society will be based on some self-imposed rules that we all choose to follow because we are free and we're aware of being free. We're not going to be forcing anybody. There's not going to be the law or an enforcement arm of the community. This is all going to be based on complete freedom because, again, there is no veil. We know the essence is free. So the children, they'll want to go through the motions as if they are maturing, quote unquote. It's just going to be a different experience. So in a way, if you think about it, when we go there, we're going to be so enthusiastic about the fact that we can change shape. We might have like 3 years where we just all go crazy. You could think of that as childhood. Just because you don't look like a child, you can see that as an experience that's very childish. And not childish as in, you're irresponsible or you're not up to par. We mean it as more playful, okay? And here they meant childlike. So yes, children will do the same thing. They'll have experiences that are more playful, more lighthearted. Then they'll move into something where perhaps they are more serious or more focused on something else. It won't be exactly like here, because here, as you know, all children are different. All of us are different, really, from an experience perspective of what we come in to do. We already said we're all one, and we're not actually different. We're not even separate. But from an experience perspective, all of us are different, okay? Even though we like to think in groups of people that like to have certain experiences. And so even children will want to have different experiences. Here we group them and say, oh, all children behave this way. All children like to do this thing. Of course, this is not true. We know this as well. If anybody has any experience with any more than one child, you know that they're all different. And on New Earth, we will respect that. So there might be children that want to experience childhood for what we consider to be 2 years. And then they want to be adults, and that's perfectly fine. So it's not going to be exactly linear like it is here. For example, I've seen my daughter grow by, 4 inches every year. And then she's becoming more and more mature. It's not going to be exactly like that, but it could be like that. It just depends on what the essence wants to experience. Lorrayne, I love that on New Earth, even though we will have the veil dropped and we will have awareness of who we are in our entirety, then we will still have the opportunity as creators to create a structure. Me. Yes, absolutely. We'll do whatever we want. That's what we are craving. We are craving freedom to do whatever we please without anyone interfering and putting limitations on us. That's what it means. Now, limitations are not a bad thing. We think of limitations as being a very negative thing on this planet. At least Clea does, because she came here yearning for freedom. This is what we want. And of course, it's an alignment thing, because that's what we're going to have on new earth. We're going to have freedom. Now, we already said, when we use words, really, you have to think of the perspective we're using them from. The essence is always free. We've repeated it a million times. We are talking from a 3D perspective here. We have experienced all these limitations. Now, these limitations seem to come from the outside. In reality, as you know, we come into the game to be limited. We basically choose what limitations we're going to impose on ourselves, because again, the essence is free. But on this planet, we've experienced very, very heavy limitations because it is so dark and we are so enslaved in so many ways at a 3D level. And we have enslaved ourselves really at a 3D level. And so we are on the earth very much looking forward to being on vacation. It's almost like when you're in a job and you have people telling you what to do, and then you go on vacation and you're like, finally, I'm in charge here. I get to do whatever I want. I don't want to get up. I want to stay in bed all day today. I'll stay in bed all day. I want to spend the whole day on the beach and skip meals. You see, that's what we mean by freedom. And that's why we say New Earth is going to be a long vacation, because we're just going to do whatever we please within reason. We'll just qualify the statement, whatever we please within reason, in the sense of we've already spoken about the fact we're not just going to knock off a planet because we feel like it. We're going to acquire, with freedom comes responsibility, we like to say. We certainly don't want to break or ruin the game for anybody else. So in that sense, but within that, again, self-imposed limitation, we are definitely going to be enjoying our lives and our freedom. I have to tell you, I'm looking forward to that. Can't wait. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, and thank you for watching as always. Bye.